Hi, I'm Felicity. Thank you for clicking on this link to hear me talk about coaching. I'm assuming that if you've clicked on the link, you're interested in coaching and potentially starting a coaching relationship with me. First of all, I think we should just acknowledge that this is not the normal format in which we would meet, but it's something I wanted to experiment with to give you a chance to hear a little bit from me without necessarily having to pick up the phone or to email me. So it's an experiment. We'll see how it goes. For me, it's absolutely a little bit alien. I'm sitting here, I'm talking to a video. I'm imagining you sitting somewhere at the other end watching this, and and what does it arise? I certainly have some nervousness in this. So if when we meet actually face to face for the first time or we speak on the phone, it feels like it's a different experience, it's because it is. We're all different depending on who we are, what we're in relation to. And at the moment, I'm in relationship with a little green dot that's on the video screen. So we're going to work with that. And as I say, let's see how it goes. But first of all, I wanted to share a little bit with you about who I am and how I've come to coaching and why it's what I absolutely love to do. I was fortunate enough at work. I was working for a large FTSE 100 retail business, and I was fortunate enough to be selected by my boss to go on a coaching development program and to become an internal coach. And it was one of those things that was just, I knew as soon as I started coaching that it was going to be part of my future. But it wasn't for me. It wasn't about doing it right then and there. So whilst I worked as an internal coach and typically had 3 to 4 relationships at any one time, as well as my day job, I knew that there was still more that I wanted to learn as a leader. I was on a leadership development program as well, and I still had stuff that I wanted to get on with and do. So that's what kept me wanting to do that. But I always knew that coaching would be part of my future, and in reality, it was part of my present then as well. But now I'm moving into the space where I want to really give it more space and time. And that just came from a realization that when I coach, I get a lot of energy, I get a lot of inspiration from the relationships that I have. And it started to be what I wanted to do more than anything else, and wanted to do more than my day job. So I made the switch. I've also done some external training as well. So I'm an accredited ICF coach, which is the International Coaching Federation. And this really supplemented the training that I'd had internally within the business. So that's taken me to where I am now. I also do some work and I'm really interested what happens in groups. You'll see that from my website, and what that also means for conversations that we have, how we hold difference, and also generally what that means for leadership practices as well. So that's a little bit about where I'm coming from. So if I now talk to you about, let's talk about the coaching process. So for me, the coaching process is fundamentally based on how we meet each other, what it looks like from a trust perspective, and what it's in service of for you. So whilst we have a very equal relationship, this is about you, it's about your development, it's about the changes and shifts that you want to play with and experiment with in your life, and how I walk alongside you in that journey. So we start with a chemistry meeting. So, you watch the video. The next stage is to either drop me an email or call me, and we can set up a half-hour chat, either face-to-face or on Skype, so that we can sort of, you can ask those questions of me, and we can just check in terms of, is coaching the right intervention for you? And that's an important thing. Is coaching the right thing? Or is it perhaps mentoring? Or is it perhaps learning? The key thing about coaching that differentiates it from mentoring is that I will help you look inside yourself and see new perspectives that come very much from you. Um, and I do believe that the answers are there within you. If you get stuck, clearly I'm there to help you to sort of see things from different perspectives. And if I do offer up suggestions, it's only ever with your permission. It's only ever something that we're creating together, rather than me telling you how it goes. Now, the key difference from mentoring, mentors have typically trodden the path before you. Mentoring comes from a Greek word, mentor, from Greek mythology. So when Ulysses went off to war, he entrusted his son to his good friend Mentor and said, teach him everything that you know. So mentoring comes from, that real sort of experience and path of somebody who's trodden that path before you. So that's definitely not what we would be doing here. Although sometimes it can stray a little bit close to those boundaries. And we talk about that in our contracting session. So coaching process, we start off with chemistry. We check in with what's the intervention that you'd like to go with. Is it definitely coaching? The next thing that we do is that we have a discovery and trust session. Now this might look like quite a big chunk of time and you might think, oh, is that really necessary? I just want to get stuck in. But this is crucial. This is about our relationship. It's about getting to know each other. It's about creating that space where you trust me. I learn about you as well. I learn about where to push your boundaries a little bit, to understand what's challenging for you, what's supportive for you. And importantly as well, we set out your intention. What's the intention of the coaching relationship? What is it that you want to sort of, take your journey towards? And although we'll be fluid and responsive with that, it's really important that there is some intention that we know that we're working towards. So it's a big chunky session. We'll do lots of play stuff. We do different things. We'll do some drawing, some mapping, and have some fun at learning and setting out the path of our journey together. Once that's complete, we also do some contracting, and that falls within the same session. And that's all about the practical elements of our relationship. When, how long, how many, where, all of those sorts of things. What happens if one of us needs to cancel? It talks about the psychology of it, what's the tone that we're using, and it talks about the professional elements as well. So what does confidentiality look like, as an example? So that's all within that sort of that 2.5 hour first session. Once that's out the way, we move into coaching. So from a coaching perspective, what we're doing then is having each session. So each session is 1.5 hours. From experience, that seems to be, the optimum amount of time. We can be flexible with it, but it seems to work quite well for allowing that process of arrival, for having the session, and then also for departing and for leaving. There are some practices that I recommend that you do before each coaching session, so that there is some reflection, some thinking about your intentionality for each session, and also allowing yourself some chunk of time after each one to reflect, to catch your notes, and to really just hold on to what's been happening in that session for you. When we're coming up towards our last session and a coaching relationship, we generally agree the fixed number of sessions that we'll have. If we do want to extend, we'll recontract for that with the specific intention that goes around that recontracting. So as we start to come to closing, we'll talk about what was the intentionality that we set out with on this journey, reflection in terms of what you've learnt, but also what are your self-sustaining practices. For me, what's really important is that you can carry on coaching yourself and continuing on your journey without me there by your side. So this is about creating something that's self-sustaining for you. Now, along the way, one of the things that I like to do is to always check in terms of, what's working for you, what feedback have you got for me, and how can we make this better together. If you're leaving it to the point of thinking, God, this just isn't working for me, then something's not working well between us. So that comes back to that first session of discovery and trust. How do we let each other know that it's not working, so we can catch it earlier and we can experiment with something else. In terms of how I like to work, I really like to incorporate in lots of different things, and I hope you get a sense of that from my website. This is not just about you and I just sitting there and having a conversation. I like us to move into getting out of our heads all the time, getting into what do we know when we look at our heart, our gut, and our body. Sometimes to get into our body, we need to do different kinds of exercises. So, for example, walking, drawing, mapping, things which help us shift perspective. Gosh, that was a mouthful. So, helping us shift perspective. So those are important. So there is also some principles which I feel are really important in our relationship. So let me just share those with you on the screen and talk them through. So I'll just give you a chance to read through those as they come up on the screen. For the first four, I've really just covered those as I've been talking. But for the fifth one, let me touch on that. We are whole people, but often it becomes too easy to become a work personality, to become somebody that you walk through the door at work and suddenly the way that you have to be at work has become a persona. And one of the key things that we're looking at is, well, who is the whole you, and how can we allow more of the whole you to come to work, so that you're less of a split personality. Maybe you've got more than one personality in there. You're a different person to who you are with your partner, with your children, with your friends at work, and we'll be looking to find the threads of your values which weave between all of those, so that you can get a sense of who you are, your whole self, your authentic self, and what that means for your leadership. So thank you for joining me in this little experiment. I hope it's been useful. Please let me know your feedback if you do pick up the phone or drop me an email, and let me know whether it worked for you. And if there's other questions that you've had that you'd like me to answer within this, and I can always drop those in for other people to benefit from. So the next step for you is to decide whether you'd like to have coaching or not. Please call me if you would. Alternatively, try one of the exercises on my website and see what that arises and emerges for you, and then perhaps give me a call. But many thanks for taking the time today, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you.